Hello, everybody. Welcome to our panel. We're going to be talking a little bit, answering some questions about our experience being canceled. We all have unique experiences online and social media, and you'll see how it's all connected. Everything in this world is connected. So just to get us started, I would love if everybody, starting with Ian, could give the crowd a little bit of a background, where you're from, your age, and your religious upbringing.
Age? Wow, okay.
Hey, we might be making some shidduchs after this weekend, guys. Not for Ian. Ian is recently engaged. Big mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm 34 years old. I did the learn to code thing backwards. So I moved to the US in 2013. I studied computer science at Oxford, bachelor's and master's, did the whole tech route. The last 4 years of my 8 years in tech were at Facebook. I worked in a bunch of different teams, but like the fact-checking, content moderation, stuff like that. And I started speaking out as a political commentator when the 2018 Pittsburgh synagogue shooting happened. Started speaking out against all the anti-Semitism I saw in the Bay Area and beyond. And then it kind of snowballed from there, and now I'm here at this wonderful event. I'm really happy to be here. Did I miss any questions? I feel like I missed a bunch.
I think religious upbringing?
Oh, so I grew up in the UK, Reform, which is, I'd say, more like conservative, kind of orthodox here. I went to a Reform synagogue once, and someone whipped out a guitar, and I'm out. I literally got up and walked out. I can't do it. So Reform in the UK, not quite so Reform here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Justine. I'm from New Jersey, and I grew up attending a Reform synagogue with the guitars and all. And the one great thing about it was the music, really. Everything else was woke. But I later joined Chabad when I went to Syracuse. Yep. And I became an advocate for free speech and against anti-Semitism. I started competing for Miss New Jersey every year. I Miss North Jersey. The South doesn't like me very much. I don't think there's one Jew in the South. Maybe a couple. Okay, I'm wrong then. Yeah, I sang Shalom Aleichem for the talent portion, and they looked at me like I had 5 heads. But yeah, I'm so excited to speak. Did I miss anything? Oh, I'm 24.
Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Ben. I'm a little unorthodox in the panel. And then I was raised Christian and still identify as Christian. I guess you can say that I became persona non grata when I was in college. We had, at our University of South Florida, a BDS resolution 3 out of the 4 years that I was attending there. And of course, I became an integral part of the effort for defeating it each time. Now, that's obviously, as I mentioned, maybe not so popular with the SJP crowd on campus. After I left, I started working for Turning Point USA, where I've had my address published by Antifa. I want to say about 6 times now, but they haven't gotten me quite yet, so that's why I'm still able to sit up here. Moving on from that, in terms of my age, well, I have a baby face, so I look like I'm 21, so let's just go with that. Regardless of that, I'm incredibly excited not only to share my experiences, but to share with all of you and hopefully serve as an inspiration that no matter what you face, no matter who comes after you, at the end of the day, you can still remain uncanceled, you can still live your life, you can still proclaim the truth and how to do so.
Thank you, Ben. Hello, in case you forgot me from earlier today, my name is Debra. I was born and raised on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I went to yeshiva my whole life. Not many people know this about me because I purposely keep my religion more private on social media. My relationship with Hashem is very personal, and I don't need, the online internet attacking it. So either way, I was Shomer Shabbos, kosher my entire upbringing. I love being a part of the Jewish community. I went to the Israeli Day Parade every single year of my childhood where we would dance away in front of the anti-Semites. And when I graduated high school, I moved to Tel Aviv, Israel to attend Bar Ilan University for a gap year. And during my time in Tel Aviv, we had rockets directly hit our campus. We were in the bomb shelter for about 8 hours. And when we got out, in that moment, I knew that I had to return to America to help defend Israel from the American political stage. I went to University of Maryland, where I studied government and politics and minored in Jewish relations and Jewish politics, or Israeli politics, Middle Eastern politics. And I am 23 years old. I've been involved with Turning Point since I was a freshman in college, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you amazing people and be an unstoppable force to send back into the world to defend Israel and rejoice in the Jewish identity on social media. So, without too much, let's just go ahead and tell the people what they want. What have you been canceled for? Ian, you want to start us off?
I'm lucky. I've never been actively canceled, I think because I preempted it. So when I was at Facebook and I was openly speaking out as a conservative, talking about all kinds of issues, trans issues, that's a bad one. If you're in California, saying that men and women are not the same is a dangerous thing to do. People had to try to get me fired, but I was ruthlessly careful with how I wrote things, so they couldn't fire me. But I think that's why I moved towards doing what I'm doing now. Like, I'm motivated by just saying what I think is true and trying to get other people to do the same. And so luckily I live in, I think, perhaps the one job in the country where you can actually just say anything without fear of being canceled, because you can't cancel someone whose job it is just to speak the truth. So that's what I try and do. But I'm also very grateful that I went to college in the UK and not the US, because I travel around the country all the time, speak to college chapters with TPUSA and YAF all the time. The nonsense they have to deal with on these campuses is insane. Like, I went to University of New Mexico, and we had to have 150 state troopers to keep a riot from happening outside. And yeah, just insane. It's insane, the kind of thing American students have to deal with. And so I do everything I can to try and use the fact that I'm safe from being canceled to try and protect them a little bit.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ian. Justine, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Well, I was canceled for multiple reasons all at once in college, and it was why I couldn't return to campus senior year, partially because I received death threats and I was getting mobbed on campus, surrounded by students and professors. And why did all this happen? Well, the very last point, the climax of it, was when I stood up for my only friend on campus, and she was a Jewish professor who is a proud Zionist, proud former IDF, former person in the IDF, and students wanted her fired. And this was in 2020. So this was right after all the George Floyd riots. Students on campus launched these anonymous-led Instagram pages to cancel and call out people whom they disagree with, and they're usually, of course, conservatives. But in this case, my professor, she wasn't conservative at all. She was just a Zionist, and she was proud about it. And I stood up for her. I wrote an article and I tweeted out in support. Well, they directed their anti-Semitic attacks toward me. And people tried to release my home address, just like they tried to release your home address. But this was the end of a very tumultuous 3 years on campus. I was first banned from my freshman dorm, parts of it, for dressing up as Melania Trump for Halloween. And then I started writing for this outlet called Campus Reform. Some of you might also write for it on your campus. Well, I tried to cover my university's attempts to shut down a Young Americans for Freedom chapter that I started because they said the Constitution is exclusionary to some students. And this invited me an invitation to stand next to President Trump when he signed a free speech executive order. Well, that led to death threats. That led to professors who found me in the street at one point on my campus. One woman placed her hand on my shoulder like a German Stasi officer and said, "I better watch out." And that's how I started getting mobbed on campus. So not very fun.
So in terms of what I'm canceled for, it really depends on the month. In college, I became persona non grata because, like I mentioned, 3 out of the 4 years I was at the University of South Florida, there was a BDS resolution brought before and defeated at the student government level. When I was working for Turning Point, it was because just little old me going up and sending a table advocating for capitalism on campus. That's when I got my address published for the first time. Most recently is when I went to a school board meeting and pointed out the fact that members who claim that men can pretend they are women and use the said bathroom, it is perfectly safe, and anybody who objects is a bigot, is sheer nonsense. The reason why none of it has actually stuck, and I don't mean to dismiss anybody who has been canceled, there are very, very real consequences to when you're called a bigot, when you're called a homophobe, when you're called a transphobe, when you're called a colonizer, when you're saying you just want to wipe out all Palestinians, just a nonsense allegation that is thrown at pro-Israel supporters. The reason why nothing stuck with me and what you should take away from this is I am very, very, very careful with what I cite, with what I say, with what hill I die on. And the reason that is because if you have a good core group of friends, it doesn't matter what is thrown at you, it doesn't matter what is said about you, it doesn't matter who comes after you, there will be people that will have your back. That's why nothing has stuck. That's why I'm able to sit here today.
That's beautiful, and I absolutely agree with the Jewish community. I think we understand the meaning of having people's back and being a part of community. In my own experience, like Ian, I was never formally canceled, as one would say, because I'm very careful as well about the things that I put out there. I only say things that I'm completely willing to defend. I don't say things necessarily just to rile people up if that's their effect. I can't control that, but that's not my intended effect. And so my first cancellation, or I would just say mass bullying online, took place when I posted a TikTok video. I barely had any followers at the time, maybe a couple thousand. And the video is essentially talking about modern day feminism, saying that I don't want to be equal to a man. I love being a woman. Women are incredible. We should take pride in it. And I don't want to wear a suit and grow my armpit hair out and call myself a man. And the left hated this. Oh my God, God forbid I am a fan of the razor. No, 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 they could not have this. So what did they do? They flooded me with just simple messages telling me to kill myself. There was no ideological response. It was just kill yourself, kill yourself. People would Venmo me to eat glass. They would DM me, sending me wiki how to tie a noose. And now looking back on it, it's fine to laugh at, but in the time, it was extremely disheartening. My cat had also gotten spayed at the time, so I was just very sad all around. But that moment gave me the ability to go through anything and truly walk through fire. If you have millions of people directing hate to you at one moment, what else can't you do? Because I really felt the confidence and the ability to enter myself into any situation after that and know that I will get through it. I have the power of Hashem behind me, and it's all going to be okay as long as I stand up and stay true to the values that I believe in. So, thanks. So bringing it back to that, I think there is something very similar between getting canceled on social media and being a Jew in this day and age. In both situations, it feels like the world hates you. It feels like every single person is out to get you, and you're just curious, who's going to stand up for me? Who is going to watch what's happening and say, no, this is wrong? So I wanted to ask each and every one of you, what was it like when you were being canceled? Did you notice a bystander effect? And what's your advice to people who see Jason Aldean singing his song, or Amanda Ensing, the makeup artist I used to watch on YouTube growing up? It was found out that she was a Trump supporter. Sephora dropped her makeup palette collection that day. So what is your advice to people who want to stand up, but they're afraid that that would put the target on their back instead? You want to start down here, Ben?
Oh, sure. I completely understand why somebody would want to stand up or to speak out. You need to make a choice about what hill you're willing to die on. Because at the end of the day, there are three types of people. 1, those on the front lines. 2, those supporting those on the front lines. And 3, those out of the fight. If you're on the front lines, know that you may be the first to stick your neck out. You will not be the last. If you have a good core group of friends around you, people that will be able to check you if you go out a little bit too far, people that will be able to give you advice, and most importantly, people that will have your back, that's who you need to have around you. But say you're not on the front lines. Say you got to stay at a job that you don't even like. Say you got to keep a friend circle of people that you don't even agree with. Say you got to keep watching Hollywood movies made by people that hate your guts as conservatives. At the end of the day, if this is the situation you're in, and you have to care more about your status than speaking the truth, then fine, I understand where you're coming from. Realize this, though, if you continue making that trade-off of having a great place in a consumer society rather than being able to speak and spread the truth, it will eventually eat you alive. So if you're in this position, I totally understand if you can't speak out, but you need to then orient your life, whether it's your friend group, whether it's your income, whether it's your college degree, and by the way, college is a scam, you should totally drop out. Nonetheless, if this is your position, it might take a little bit while, orient yourself so you are able to move to a position where even if you are canceled, you will be able to do so and be around a group of friends that will support you no matter what. This is the way. This is how we move forward. And at the end of the day, the third option, if you're out of the fight, you're out of the fight. You're useless. I have no else to say. At least support the people that are in it.
Well, as Elie Wiesel said, neutrality helps the oppressor. So you have to speak up eventually. When do you speak up? Because at the moment, and in the moment, when I was a freshman getting started on campus, I remember I had a poster of President Trump next to Ronald Reagan. And my parents, they said, no, Justine. They were helping me set up my room. They took the poster, they put it inside my closet, and they said, here, now you can be the only one who looks at it. Don't let your roommate find out that you're conservative. Well, that lasted for a day. And I figured that it wasn't worth keeping mum, because eventually you'll have to fight the truth, or else you'll live in a world full of lies. And I know that it's hard to speak out at first, but it's really the only thing that you can do, because this censorship, this is a growing cancer. You have to nip it at the bud. And the Overton window of thought is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So when we talk about watching what we say, okay, yeah, you don't want to be crude in public, but now you can't say that a woman is a woman and a man is a man. When do you draw the line? And I actually was threatened, my pageant threatened to kick me out in November because I dared to make a social media post complaining that they're allowing transgenders in to compete, men dressed up as women. And they said, okay, Justine, well, if you want to continue competing, you need to take the post down immediately. Or we might have to kick you out, but we're going to have a meeting about it. So I said no. I said, no way. I would rather stand to my values. And they never reached out to me again. So I wasn't really sure if I was kicked out of the pageant or not until I got all the information for pageant orientation. And I think it was because they knew that I had allies around me who would stand up for me if the pageant dared to kick me out. And that was because I spoke up at an early time in my life, and I was able to find allies. The allies who are sitting with me on the stage and who would be willing to stand up with me, and I'd be willing to stand up for all of you the next time someone tries to cancel you too.
So I think the main thing to understand about cancel culture is it's really an outgrowth of just bully tactics. All it is the power of the mob relying on the fact that most people will be more afraid than they are willing to step up and say what is right. And that is also based on the fact that we respect way too many people's opinions. In terms of whose opinions I actually care about regarding myself, the number I could probably count on one hand in my life. That doesn't mean I don't care what people think necessarily. It doesn't mean I walk around and I'm intentionally rude or intentionally dismissive of people, or I misbehave in some way. But there should be very few people in your life you actually care about in terms of how you are viewed. Those are the people you should go to, if you share the same values, of course, to actually get a gauge on whether you are doing what is right, saying what is right, pushing the right values. And so even if 1 million people online want you dead, who cares? Like, who cares what a bunch of people you don't respect in the first place have to say? They are relying on the fact that we are, in our society, designed to care what the mob thinks. Really, the foundation of America is built on the fact that the mob should not have power. That's really what the Democratic Party are pushing every single day. They're always going on and on about the majority and the majority and the majority. So what if the majority want something that's immoral? That doesn't make it right. And so I think we always need to come back to that fact of understand they're trying to bully you. I don't necessarily want everyone to speak up unless they're able to, because not everyone is in the same position. But that's why I try and speak out. I also try and push back against cancel culture on the right, because I think the fact is that we do see conservatives try and cancel people on the left. It doesn't happen anywhere near as much, but it does happen. And I think we need to really focus on objective thought, objective speech, and just returning to the point where we can actually look each other in the face and agree to disagree, I think would be something that would improve the country. But really to wrap up this thought, don't care what other people think. That will solve a huge number of problems in your life if you simply don't care.
Thank you, Ian. I know from my own experience, just being a social media mogul, let's use that word instead of influencer, it's more favorable to me. But I just know from my time in social media that it's important to encourage others to speak up, and you don't have to do that by directly encouraging others to speak up. If you speak up, people will see that and they will be inspired by your courage and your bravery, and you have no idea how many people that you're influencing, every single one of you, whether you believe it or not, you all have influence over the people that you interact with on a daily basis. So I think that there's a lot of ways to go about it, but I also want to warn you that it's very painful. It's a different type of pain when you rely on somebody and they don't stand up for you in that moment. So I would say put your faith solely in Hashem, put your faith in the Jewish community, and be wary of relying on the outside world. I think the recent events with Kanye West and just all of the other anti-Semitic incidents on social media that have taken place since October of last year have taught us that it's very hard to trust people outside of the community these days. As much as we love our allies, we have amazing Christian people all over the world who are willing to defend Israel and defend the Jews from the vile anti-Semitism. But I also want to encourage you to really just put your trust and faith in no one but Hashem, because he is the only one that will protect all of us and deliver us in every generation from the hands of our enemies. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. We had a great time speaking with you, and I am so excited that Dennis Prager will be speaking soon. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.